Okay, so hello again. It's myself, Kelvin, and Ashley.
Hello.
Once more. And
Cheers, by the way.
cheers. We're just having a little drink.
Not pre-apocalypse.
Yeah, because it is coming.
Nightcap.
So following on from our last podcast where we did Contagion, we're sort of following down the same road, sort of, and tonight we're going to be doing a commentary of I Am Legend with Will Smith. What year? I don't know.
I was just about to say, I'm trying to... Well, we watched a bit of this film just to get ourselves in the mood, because I probably haven't watched it. I might have watched it a couple of times after the cinema on DVD. But he mentions 2012 in the movie, so I think that was supposed to be a bit into the future.
Oh, okay.
So I'm very much guessing here, but I think it was around 2005 or 6 maybe. I'm not entirely sure about that, but I'll perhaps at the end I'll confirm it. But so this was supposed to be happening in 2012,
right?
As far as the movie goes, but I'm sure it was a few years before that it was shot. I'm trying to think when I watched it. I remember going to the cinema to watch it. It was around that time, 2000. No, maybe it was later than that. 2009 maybe.
Okay.
I forget that we're 2020, aren't we? Blimey! So it probably was. It might have been later. It might even been 2010. It's probably getting on for 10 years ago. I was trying to looking at Will Smith, how young he looked,
and looking at the CGI,
and looking at the ropey CGI.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think about 2009, 2010, but we'll confirm later maybe. But yeah, so as Kelvin said, we thought we'd try another virus movie or apocalyptic movie.
They are quite.
We've got a bit of history with this, haven't we? Not
bit,
not this film particularly, but the book, Richard Matheson's book, and obviously the variations that of movies that are adapted.
Obviously, yeah.
And I thought maybe we'd discuss that as well, because you haven't seen this, have you? Or do you? Bits of it, maybe.
I saw bits of it. I don't think I watched the whole thing.
Would it have been something you rented out, or you?
It might have just been on the TV.
It's probably been on TV since then.
Will Smith and me
don't mix.
Don't see eye to
eye.
I
think this film was supposed to be. It was billed as Will Smith the actor. And not Will Smith the action hero. I think I seem to remember them making quite a virtue out of the fact that he was going to tone down his heroics and his sort of gun-ho action man status for this. It was supposed to be because generally that is really only the kind of film. He's done a few dramas, hasn't he? Actually, he's done a few dramas. I can't say I've seen many of the dramatic performances.
He did Muhammad? Didn't he get an Oscar for?
He did actually, didn't he? Yes.
Ali.
But I guess that's still in the kind of action genre, isn't it? It was not.
So.
It's got action in it, like Rocky has got action in it, I guess. But yeah, I guess it was more of that's obviously
6
a biopic.
Degrees of Separation, isn't it?
Now that I do remember seeing. Actually, I think we didn't we watch that I'm sure we watched that not long after it came out. That was kind of I think his first post Fresh Prince of Bel-Air movie, wasn't it? Where he was perhaps looking for a bit of credibility. He'd done the sort of cocky rapper, teenager type role, and he was trying to get his because wasn't that a stage play?
Yes, it was, I think. Yeah,
and he was pretty good in that, wasn't he? Yeah, he was fair play to him.
Oh, and he did that one with when he was homeless with his.
Yeah, that's right.
I can't remember what it's called.
I can't remember. Was it his name? Was that the name of the movie? I can't remember now.
Yeah.
I do remember that. I don't think I ever saw it.
I think I saw it.
Did you?
Yeah, he was quite good in that.
So he has got a bit of range, hasn't he? And perhaps just chooses not to utilise it because I guess action films are an easy dollar, aren't they? Really, and maybe has been typecasted very so slightly. So I think this was trying to straddle both the actor Smith and the action hero Smith. They try to do a bit of a straddling with this and combine the two. We were just talking before. We like I said, we only watched about the first 10 or 20 minutes of it just to get ourselves back in the zone. But slightly uneven, this film, slightly unsuccessful in trying to marry the action and the more contemplative drama side that the book is kind of known for. The book's a bit more of a meditative kind of thing, isn't it? That I remember. And again, we've both read the book, haven't we?
A long
time ago, yes. So my memory's a little hazy of the book, really. So I'm going to fire the film up, but I'm not going to necessarily talk about the film at the beginning. Perhaps we'll talk more about the sort of adaptations and stuff that we've seen. So perhaps you would like to talk about that, Millie. Or the book even. What your recollection of the book is.
Well, like I say, it was a long time ago, so my memory of it is quite vague.
Did we read it at uni, or was that post-uni?
I think it was probably at uni, wasn't it?
I know we sort of used to share books and stuff, didn't we? We had a bit of a thing for Philip K. Dick, didn't we?
Yes.
So we sort of went through all them. Yeah. So your recollections are hazy.
Well, generally.
Just generally, yeah. We were discussing that. We had to have a little bit of a pause there, and I mean, if we did, like you said, if we read them at uni, that whole period is pretty hazy, isn't it? Really.
I mean, if we were well prepared, we would,
But then it wouldn't be as much fun if it was well prepared,
No.
would it? Really, because it would be just very sort of sterile.
Yeah.
So that's part of hopefully the joy of listening to us rambling on. So my recollection of the book is slightly less hazy than yours,
Right, okay.
but not much more less hazy, because I remember I remember the dog dying, because there's a dog in the book, and there's actually a dog featured in the Will Smith adaptation.
Yeah.
But I remember it being quite a throwaway thing in the book. It was like, because the whole sort of thrust of his relationship. Obviously, if people have not seen the film, basically, or read the book, humanity's just basically been wiped out, hasn't it? And there's Neville who's left, and he's trying to find a cure for this virus that's basic. Well, that hasn't really. It's killed some people off, hasn't it? But other people, it's mutated into.
Yeah,
They're not all dead, are they? Some die, but I think those who remain are sort of altered, aren't they, genetically? They're like vampires, basically, aren't they? And basically, the book Richard Matheson wrote is effectively like a vampire book updated to the modern era of when it was written, which I think was it was written in the 50s or 60s.
Oh, okay.
So those who remain are effectively vampires. And do they suck blood? I think they might. They might even suck blood. I can't quite recall.
Is it like a zombie thing where I can't even remember? Like, or do they just kill?
I think they kill people for food. They like drink their blood, basically.
Right.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, the thing is, probably my memory of the movies is clearer because we probably watch them more often. Like particularly the Charlton Heston movie from 1971, I think that was, the year of our birth. Ironically or not so ironically,
So very was, yeah.
And
what a good year.
so I think they changed quite a lot with the adaptations they have, and I think we were talking about this earlier. I kind of get confused. I mix up sometimes the book with the movie adaptation. So in the Omega Man, he's like a sort of general, isn't he? Like or like a military type. I think he's still a virologist or a scientist because he's got lots of vials and syringes and stuff in the Omega Man, if I remember.
He trying to?
I think he's trying to find a cure as well, isn't he? But then he finds those hippies that because he's immune, isn't he? He's immune to the virus. He's got some rare blood type, and they want to try and synthesize his blood to create a cure. But there's no dog in the Charlton Heston version. They completely.
I always worry about
that
films with dogs in.
What, just they're acting or getting them to try and act? Well, I think go on.
Well, that it might turn into like a. Well, I suppose It does.
A schmaltz fest.
Yeah.
Well, in the book, it's quite. I think like
it's a buddy.
It's a buddy, yeah.
thing
I mean, effectively in this Will Smith version, the dog is a surrogate.
Well, he's got no one else, has he?
No, it's a surrogate child or whatever. I think it does. I think he even calls it a. He kind of humanised it. It's been anthropomorphised in this because he like.
He loves that dog.
He loves it, but he does
not in that way.
A man does get lonely. What you don't see, we don't know. But yeah, I think he treats it more like a human being than he does a dog. But in the Charlton Heston version, there is no dog, and in the book, I think it's more about him. He's trying to this is the only real thing I remember. I remember like the vampires trying to seduce Neville, because there is like sort of, are they called succubus?
Right.
There's like female vampires stroke, whatever you want to call them, zombies in the book, and they're sort of taunting Neville because he's obviously very sexually frustrated because he's
Charlton Heston.
Well, he probably wasn't. He probably just stroked his carbine rifle, didn't he? That probably got him off.
That was his...
That was his phallus.
Yeah.
That was his extension to his manhood. So he probably just gave that a good buffing, oiled it up or whatever.
Oh, kept it cocked and loaded.
That's it. You never know when there's going to be an invasion. Those damn commies. But so yeah, in the book, it's more about, I think, it's Neville, the character, coaxing this dog because he's so lonely and he wants to befriend it, and then the irony of it is he spends months trying to coax this dog, and the dog's obviously very nervous, and then when he finally does sort of get to semi-befriending it, the bloody thing goes and dies. And I remember a scene where he sees it in the gutter, like sort of dead. So it's like a real, sort of pessimistic, nihilistic sort of thing, whereas in this version the dog is his friend immediately. There's none of that coaxing, and it's almost like Dancing with Wolves, the bit where Costner's trying to befriend the wolf.
What do you prefer?
I kind of like the book version better because it emphasises he's basically totally lonely, and I think what I didn't finish earlier, but because you don't recall this film, but in this the sort of vampire stroke zombies, they're quite simple-minded creatures, and in the book they're very clever. They've retained their intellect, whereas this they're more like cannon fodder, zombies. They are more like zombies in this film, because I think this was kind of like the beginning of the zombie craze. We had the Dawn of the Dead remakes and all the remakes, and just before The Walking Dead and stuff. So I think they tried to make these to ride that crest of zombie movie interest, Shaun of the Dead, etc. They made these more like zombies,
right?
Whereas in the book they are vampires, but they, like I said, they retain their intellect, and there's like a leader of the vampire stroke zombies who basically wants to get Neville out. They want to destroy him because, if I remember, the crux of the book is he's like he's kind of like the alien in it all. Like he although he is the last man standing, he's not like everyone else.
No.
He was like everyone else when humanity was alive and flourishing, and now he's become the legend.
Outsider.
An outsider. They want to basically kill him because he's different than them. So there's a whole thing about his difference. And being alien. And one of the scenes I remember in the book is they basically prey on his sexual frustration, and the leader of the vampires sends out some sort of sexy vampire women to sort of strip, and they do like a dance outside his house where he's all held up in this like fortress, isn't he?
Yeah.
Which also the films, they do use that idea of him being in a fortress that he's created, and they're all doing like a nudie naked dance, trying to, come on Neville, come out. You're just wasting away in there, and look at what we got, some fine ass looking vampire ladies here, who want to introduce themselves to you, and he has to really fight the urge because and they make more of that in the book, that it's more of a meditative. What would you do if you were completely on your own? You are basically the last of your kind, which he effectively is. There's no one else. And that's a sort of trope that's in so many horror and sci-fi movies. I was just about to say, "There's no one else like you left," which is a line from the Body Snatchers, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's that whole. It's almost like a reverse Body
there
Snatchers.
Are quite a few films that do that, you know.
So it's kind of like, you know, it's subverting that kind of storyline, whereas he's almost the enemy, if you like.
Yeah.
In the book,
Yeah.
you know, he's an oddity. He's an anachronism. You know, these vampires, they're the evolution, they're the future, and he's the past, basically. And I think they make a little bit of a virtue of that in the Omega Man, like, you know, the old ways, the wheels, brother, isn't there? There's all that thing in the Omega Man, the old ways, brother.
Yeah.
Forget the old ways.
He's trying to cling on to that. And
Exactly.
bring it back.
Yes.
You know.
It's much more of an interesting metaphysical sort of debate in the book. I mean, and the films, there's elements of that in the films. They kind of retain little elements of that, but they kind of just fudge it a little bit, and they don't get to the nitty gritty of it. And I think that's the problem with all the movie adaptations, is they kind of miss the point of the book.
Yeah.
You know, that is the point of the book.
But like you said, the book was written in the 50s, I think, or 60s or whatever. So they're trying to adapt it for the time.
For the era, yeah.
Like you said, with the Charlton Heston one, there's like hippies.
Yes, yeah.
You know, and I guess this one, they trying to. I can't think of.
Well, I think with this they were trying to tap into the zombie craze that was kind of quite fledgling, but it was there, and unfortunately, it's quite. This film suffers from being quite simplistic.
Yeah.
In a different way than the Omega Man does, because the Omega Man is quite simplistic as well, but it's a bit more of a, you know, like you said, it's got hippies. It's like Charlton Heston's the establishment, isn't he? He's like, you know, he's the military establishment, and they're like, hey, it's all going to be like a hippie utopia, because, you know, that was that pre-Manson, 71?
Yeah.
So I guess hippies were seen as, perhaps, in a way, that lifestyle probably was seen a little bit as the future, wasn't it? A little bit. Yeah. We're going to have a lot free love, and it's going to be utopian, and there's not going to be war, and hey man, because that's the thing with the, you know, like you've just said there in Charlton Heston film, the Omega Man, he's the old way. Yeah. And we've got a new way now, and it's, you know, it's love and, you know, and peace, and obviously a bit of zombie death as well. Or whatever. Well, they're not really zombies in the Charlton Heston film, are they, really?
No.
They're kind of pasty-faced. Well, that's the thing that film kind of gets right, is those, they're out like albinos, aren't they? Or albinos.
Yes, that's right.
If you're American, I guess. But they retain their intellect. They're still rational thinking beings.
Whereas
and in this, they're just like blood-crazed.
Mindless.
Zombies.
Yeah.
Which is a shame. It's like, I just think that was an unnecessary change to the... Maybe they wanted to distance themselves from the old movie, but how many people would really remember, you know, the Omega Man?
Yeah.
It's a bit of a cult film, isn't it? But it's not a...
Do you think this film gets anything right from the actual book? Or...
Well, we were talking earlier, and I was saying it's a film of two halves, and I think it kind of is. I think the first half, they've kind of gone for the more intellectual sort of exploration of Neville's psyche, and
about being alone, and
that's quite effective.
Yeah,
the isolation part of it is quite well done in this film. It's when they sort of, I think they tie themselves in a few knots with the plot, and what they borrow, I believe, in this film from the Charlton Heston film is that Smith's kind of like a messianic character in this. He's a bit like the Messiah. Right. So there's a lot of allusions to that in this film which annoy me, and which I will flag up if I see them and I'm reminded. But, you know, in Heston, you remember in the Omega Man, there's a blatant Christ sort of parallel, isn't it? Do you remember at the end when he's like he's been speared, hasn't he? Yeah. And his blood is like, it's like the blood of Christ. Yeah. You know, it's the saviour. He's the saviour because he's like immune, and he's been speared, and he's like dying in a fountain. which they take a water bottle, don't they? I'm not sure how scientifically, medically accurate that is. If you just drink it, just takes Charlton Heston's blood. Maybe that's a thing. Like, Charlton Heston was so manly that even his blood would cure.
There's probably a lot of testosterone in that blood.
It was flowing through his veins, wasn't it? He was probably almost 99% pure testosterone.
Yeah.
And so maybe that was a theory that Charlton Heston's blood will save the world. But when he's dying, he kind of falls like in a Christ-like pose. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
It's quite pretentious.
Yeah.
But there's something a bit cheesy about it, and quite, cheesily enjoyable. But I think he's kind of he's basically like the Messiah. He's not the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy, but he is the Messiah. And I think that's kind of what they. That's the kind of thing that this film borrows from that film. Whereas in the book, he wasn't seen as. I don't remember it being. Maybe it was subtly explored, but I don't remember them saying like, "Oh, he's the savior." He was. It was the opposite. He was the Antichrist, basically.
Yeah.
He
was trying to.
He was trying to, like you were saying, stick to the old ways. Yeah. Well, the old ways were gone. You're clinging on to something, that you don't need to. Embrace the new way.
Yeah.
And so, in a way, the book, all the films have done the opposite. They've made Neville into like a heroic figure.
Yeah.
And he never was in the book, really.
No,
and that's what these films kind of miss. But they do it because that's a crowd-pleasing thing, isn't it? You don't want your hero... No one wants a villainous leading character, do they? No. Which I think is a shame. I think they're always more interesting, and I always think, I don't know if you feel this, but I always feel films are more interesting when there is shades of grey and ambiguity.
It's much more real, isn't it? But I think a lot of times in films, the people that make them think that's not what the people want. I don't know. Maybe
I think that's what it is.
Maybe a lot of people don't. They don't want to see Will Smith as like a
villain.
Yeah.
Or ambiguous, a morally ambiguous character.
Yeah, they want to be on his side.
Exactly. And I think that's probably, you can imagine like the script meeting, can't you, really? And like when they're saying, well, we're going to adapt this book again, but actually Neville's not particularly likeable. We need him likeable. So they hire a likeable leading man. They get Will Smith. Yeah. And I'm sure that brings baggage with it as well, doesn't it? So. You're not going to be morally ambiguous, Will. You're going to be Will Smith, the action hero, the hero that an audience is going to latch onto and relate to.
Got to root for him.
Yeah, which is a shame in a way because, and like I say, you take a book like a classic. I believe, I don't know how you feel about it, but I think that book's a modern. It's not that modern nowadays, but to me, it's up there with Bram Stoker's Dracula. I mean, it reinvented the sort of vampire myth, in a very clever way and updated it. And I'm Richard Matheson. I think is obviously a very clever writer as well. He's done a lot of good stuff that's been adapted into movies. I think he wrote for the Twilight Zone as well. I believe he wrote scripts for the old. Rod Serling black and white series, but if you're going to take a book, why? This has always been a thing that I think we've talked about in other podcasts. But if you're going to rewrite a book so much that it ceases to be the book, then why not just do something original and not call it that? Do you know what I mean? Yeah, call it something different. Because
I understand it's a different medium, isn't it? But. That doesn't mean...
But look, spaghetti westerns. I mean, you look at, those films are masterpieces, not all of them. But I mean, like Once Upon a Time in the West. And Charlie Bronson, he's not a good guy. He's morally ambiguous. Films like Apocalypse Now, Martin Sheen, he's a morally ambiguous character. They're not easily relatable characters.
No.
Yet they Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
A lot of characters that De Niro's played. Yeah. A lot of Scorsese movies. And you could argue Tarantino, sort of later, obviously influenced by sort of Scorsese and others. Altman maybe. But I mean, they're more, those films do stand the test of time. And their characters are more interesting. Like you say, they're more human. They're more believable. They're more. But this film, you know, it's a crowd pleaser. They want to get bums on seats, so they simplify the themes. They don't want to make them too complex for a mainstream movie audience, unfortunately, because they feel like they're going to lose the audience if they do that.
If it was an indie interpretation of it,
well, that's exactly it.
It would be a totally different film.
You're totally right. I mean, that's probably the best way you could have approached this film. But but this film needed a massive budget to do all the visual effects, and people weren't going to watch a $150 million art house movie. Well, that's the whole art and commerce conundrum, isn't it?
And not being derogatory to the sort of people that went to see this, but they probably weren't aware of.
They probably didn't even know it was a book. Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure 70.
Or the other adaptations.
We throw a random statistic out. Say 70% of it never even knew it was a pre-existing movie or book. Yeah, they went to see it because it was a Will Smith movie.
Yeah, Will Smith's in that. Oh, it looks good.
Yeah, he was good in Bad Boys and Bad Boys 2.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll go and see it because of that.
And I'm not sure if you.
Well, what do you think your typical Will Smith, movie guy would have thought of this? I mean, I know we haven't watched it all yet. We're kind of about 20 minutes in there.
Well, like you said, they probably thought it's a bit slow to start. Isn't it? It's a bit.
And that's something that sort of has more in common with the Omega Man.
Yeah.
It is got a bit of a slow build.
Yeah. But they probably like the second half.
Which is more action orientated. Yeah. And which I think personally is when the film loses its way a little bit because it kind of jettisons the more sort of introspective drama aspect and it goes more for the CGI blowout. That's something else we're going to talk about a bit later, is how poor the CGI is realised. And also how this film nearly got made 10 years previous, about 10 years, by Ridley Scott.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Now, did you know that? Had you heard that?
When you said it,
did it ring a bell?
It did ring a bell with.
There was quite a lot of abortive movies around that time. I remember that was also around the time that another Mad Max film was muted.
Right.
And they even, and I was reading up on this the other day. It's quite fascinating actually. It was they actually came, as far as I know. I don't know if it was second unit stuff, but and this, I could be wrong about this, but I think they actually came that close to filming. They'd signed all the contracts. Mel Gibson was back.
Right.
They were gonna film it. It was all, I think, I don't know much about the storyline, how it differed from Fury Road that finally came out, obviously, 15 years later or whatever it was, 13 years later. But Mel was signed on and they got sets all built, as far as I understand it, and it was going to be filmed in Nambia.
Okay.
But there was a big civil war
that
happened, and basically it got scrapped because the insurance was too high. They were worried about the safety of the actors, and then of course Mel had his little problems and stuff, didn't he?
Yeah.
So it just got put on the back burner. But that came very close to being shot, as far as I know. As far as I hear it, it would have been
with Mel as well.
It would have been, and I probably would have been a lot more interested in seeing that than the Tom Hardy version.
Oh God, yeah.
Personally.
Yeah. No, I did watch that. I didn't like it.
I think there's some iconic characters, and we're going off on a tangent here, but that's all good. I think there's just some iconic characters that you can't recast. It's like, whatever you think of the Indiana Jones franchise, that's Harrison Ford. Han Solo is Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
It's like when they tried, they did the prequel they did Solo, didn't they?
Yeah.
And obviously it was a prequel, so they cast a younger actor. But it's not Harrison Ford.
No.
Do people really want to see a film about, a character that's been basically embodied by an actor, played by someone else? It just isn't the same, isn't it? No. It's like a bad cover. I always akin it to, or compare it to, like a bad cover version.
Yeah, yeah.
You've got a band doing a Led Zeppelin song, but it's not Led Zeppelin. You go to a pub and watch a covers band. you think, well, I do anyway. I think, well, I'd kind of rather be watching the real thing, if at all possible. If I can't watch them, I'd rather listen to the real thing.
Well, that's the same with a lot of remakes or reboots or whatever you want to call them. You know, half the time they're totally unnecessary.
Yeah, I mean, they are unnecessary. I mean, you could argue that sequels are unnecessary, really.
Yeah.
But I think if you really absolutely have to make a sequel, it is your duty to get, if at all possible, unless they're dead, to get the original cast back.
Yeah.
Because otherwise,
or just make something else.
or make something original. Yeah, ideally make something original.
Yeah.
But if you really can't help yourself and you have to make a sequel, don't do a crappy like soft reboot where you recast actors, or or it's a prequel where you get younger people to play.
Yeah.
You know, it just comes out. I think it's a bit
making something
shallow.
original these days seems to be very few and far between. Like there doesn't seem to be. I don't know if it's laziness or just there aren't any original ideas out there. I don't know.
You think we've got another Ghostbusters movie we've got to watch, even though you know, they already seem to have stalled a few years ago with a reboot.
Yeah.
Don't know if you've ever watched that one.
No, I haven't.
Ghostbusters reboot.
The all-female.
I must admit, I gave up because it was again, it's like a poor cover version.
I just don't.
It's got nothing to do with the fact that there's women playing, you know, there was all that thing at the time, like, oh, they're taking male characters and turning them into women, and it's woke, that word, which I'm still, we're old people, we don't really know what, we don't really know what woke means.
No.
I mean, we're nearly 50 now, so to me.
I woke up this morning.
I woke, I was semi-awake. Well, I don't know, I didn't wake up with a semi. Well, I might have. So it's a male problem, isn't it? Not at my age. Fucking hell.
Is that woke? I don't know.
That's something completely different. But it could be. Yeah, maybe waking up with erection is woke these days. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm a bit worried. But I mean, you know, so it had nothing to do with the fact that it was women playing, you know, the male characters.
You didn't get the semi when you
watched it?
No.
I felt quite impotent watching it. It's quite floppy because it was just not funny. It was just not funny. I mean, I'm not saying, you know, Ghostbusters the
Are
original.
you saying women aren't?
No. Okay, well, let's get that. They can be funny. Of course they can.
Can they? In what?
I'll get back to you on that.
Sorry.
No, they can be. Victoria Wood was funny.
Who was?
Victoria Wood. She's dead now, so she's not funny anymore.
Right.
I thought she was funny back then. French and Saunders were kind of funny for a while.
Yeah.
And then became unfunny. Who else? Come on.
Funny women.
Funny women. Drop the Dead. No, well, not Drop the Dead Donkey. What was that thing? Something about Smack the Pony.
Oh yes.
They were funny.
Yeah.
They were funny.
Yeah.
I don't know, for viewers out there who probably have never heard of that, Google it. But they were like an all-female comedic troupe, weren't they?
Marty Kane.
She was funny in the 70s, wasn't she? Because she smoked a fag, and she told blue jokes. That was normally the domain of men, wasn't it?
Yeah,
telling blue jokes. So I guess she was funny. I think she might have made me laugh when I watched her.
Probably
when I was about, I don't know, what was it, 8 or something.
Yeah.
But what's I got to Ghostbusters? Yeah, it was like I said, it was a bad, you know, they could have cast men, it wouldn't have made any difference. It was a bad cover version of a good film, and they just basically.
I'd just like to meet the person whose idea it was. I don't know.
Well, you know, okay, this is getting into woke territory here, but you know, this is, I don't know if this is controversial or not, but I mean, to be honest with you, all this woke and SJW, social justice warrior thing, it goes totally over my head. I don't really understand it. I don't think there's really an agenda to, what do you call it, like, to force female characters onto unsuspecting audiences. Well, it's what sells, isn't it? Really, and I think, you know.
Why couldn't they make an original
positive reinforcement? Is that what it's called?
All female. That would have been more interesting, though. I don't know.
An all female what?
Another all female film.
Oh, well, but it isn't attached to the Ghostbusters franchise. Yeah, exactly. Do that.
Just seemed bizarre to me.
I think it was, but I think it was kind of, you know, there's two sort of schools of thought here. I mean, there was a school of thought, I think, initially that female-led movies were good for box office.
Right.
So everyone, like Hollywood loves a bandwagon, don't they? So it's a bandwagon jumping. Someone's had a successful, like Hunger Games, okay? Let's just use that for an example, okay? And you know, there's no science that's proven this, but I mean, like, this is just speculation. But that was a big success for the movie studios, wasn't it? And it was a female-led franchise.
Right.
I think they got 3 movies out of that, did they?
Yeah.
So it was, so, you know, Hollywood sees dollar signs, don't they? They're not. There's no sort of altruistic or social conscience with Hollywood. Really, it's like that made a lot of money. We're going to do more like that.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
Yeah.
So they thought female-led movies,
And
they're
they come
making
out-
money now.
And they come out looking
Yeah, progressive.
like
Oh,
with
look.
black people, like
Same with that.
Yeah.
Same with that.
Yeah. Well, there's not.
It is
enough-
tokenism, really.
Yeah.
But you know, like
Hidden under.
a veneer
Yeah.
of progressiveness.
Yeah.
Because that's Hollywood, isn't
Like
it?
the what was it? Black Panther.
Yeah, exactly. Which we've spoken about before.
Yeah.
Which we won't go into again. But you know, it's a mediocre movie. Not unlike a lot of other Marvel movies. I'm not singling out Black Panther as being, it's because it's got black characters in it. It's because it's a mediocre movie. And I thought the last Spider-Man movie was as mediocre, if not more so. So it's got nothing to do with the race or the gender. It's just mediocre.
Yeah.
And you know, that's, you can't, well, for me, I couldn't paint it as anything else. I came out of the movie and I thought, well, that was a bit naff. Regardless of who was in it, it was a generic superhero movie, and they're 10 a penny these days, aren't they? The same way I felt about Justice League. I know you don't see
No.
although I've pulled back on my DC on my superhero comic book movies, because I haven't even bothered seeing like Aquaman. I didn't even bother. I mean, that just sounded naff.
I did see that.
Oh, you did? Isn't there an irony?
Yeah.
And I'm comic book movie man.
I wasn't.
So what did you make of that?
It was absolute rubbish.
Was it?
Yeah.
Well, he was in Justice League. He was the fish guy in Justice League, and he was rubbish in that. And that film was rubbish. And I was like, well, why would I pay money to go and see a film solely about him when he was rubbish in the movie I did see him in, and that movie was rubbish anyway. So I gave that a hard miss, that one.
Yeah. Apparently the ladies like the actor who,
Oh yeah, what's his name?
I don't know.
I know you mean. He's from Game of Thrones originally, wasn't he? Well, not.
Yeah.
Was he? No, he's a wrestler originally, isn't he? He's another wrestler,
Oh, what, like
like The Rock. I think he's another wrestler made actor.
Stone Cold?
Oh, Steve Austin, yeah, which we need to talk about at some point. That's in the movies that time forgot.
Yeah, it's in the.
That's in the
intro.
in the vlog. That's the video cast, isn't it? That's not a spodcast. That's a vlogcast.
Yeah,
We're going up in the world. We're into visual medium.
we're trying to. Yeah.
You'll probably lose more views when they see what we look like. So yeah, where were we? Yeah, comic book movies or whatever. I mean, I know we got off a tangent here, but it all kind of ties in with this really, because I think 2000, and I've discovered when this film was made. Now I went back and looked. It's 2007. This film was made, and I think that was kind of on the cusp of a new wave of Hollywood commercialism, really. You know, the superhero movies were kind of getting quite. I think Iron Man had already come out, so they were becoming a big property, a big franchise thing. I mean, I'm actually talking of franchise. I mean, they even talked about making a sequel to this, and you know, I'm not going to spoil the ending, but really, logically, there's no way this could have been a sequel. No. But they were like, oh no, we want to do this. And there's obviously a script somewhere or a treatment somewhere, because it was seriously spoken about. I think just before this film came out. This film was a moderate success. It wasn't a huge box office hit, but I think it did moderate box office. And it probably, the bean counters who look at these things probably said, well, a sequel's just about viable.
Yeah.
But they probably needed to shave lots off the budget. And Will Smith was, spoken about reprising his role, but it was going to be a prequel.
Oh, right.
Because that was a thing at the time, and it still is today, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not sure quite how they would have done that. It would have been far removed from the book But they did speak about it. It was seriously spoken about it, and actually until quite recently, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Not that long ago, but I think it's dead and buried now, and rightfully so. To be honest with you, I think it's a bad idea.
You were talking about the fact that Ridley Scott was.
Oh yeah, Ridley Scott and Schwarzenegger. Arnold Schwarzenegger was.
How do you think that would have turned out?
Well, probably. That would probably have been flawed too, really, because Schwarzenegger's not an actor, is he?
No.
So it's like I think they really struggled to get it right, really. So that again,
who would you have?
they wanted Schwarzenegger because he was a name, like they wanted Will Smith because he was a name. So
like Charlton Heston.
like Charlton Heston was exactly a huge
And
star.
You could comment about his acting ability.
Well, exactly. And to be honest with you, that's totally right. There's parallels there. I think he. And maybe you can agree or disagree, but I think he was very much a Schwarzenegger of his time.
Yes, yeah.
Because he was
a man.
It was
wasn't
brawn.
He was big.
I mean, he wasn't muscly like Schwarzenegger.
No, but he was.
But he was a man, exactly.
Yeah.
He was a manly man
with a gun.
And an attitude.
Yeah.
And Schwarzenegger is, I mean, all right.
He would save you, wouldn't he?
Yeah, yeah.
Heston and
Schwarzenegger, combined. Come with me if you want to live is Schwarzenegger's Terminator line, isn't it? So you trusted him. Well, when he wasn't killing you in the first Terminator movie, which was the best Terminator movie if you ask me. When he was a villain, he was interesting.
It was
when they softened him and made him like kiddie friendly and hasta la vista baby. I always thought that was a bit naff. That I mean, it's a great film, Terminator 2, but. No, I think the first one has the edge because it's like he's like an unstoppable murderer. He's a killer, isn't he?
He's a Terminator.
He's a Terminator. So you've got that's the name of the movie.
Yeah.
Terminator. So he's a savior now. He's not he doesn't terminate people, or he only terminates bad guys. No, in Terminator he terminated everyone.
Yeah.
He's a fucking Terminator. So yeah, why sanitize it and that's Hollywood, though, isn't it? Because the 90s. We're a bit more caring and a bit more, post-yuppie era. We want to be more caring and sharing. So we're going to take the Terminator, but in a really clever twist, he's going to be a nice guy now. He's going to save people, do me a favour. But yes, Schwarzenegger, like you say, very much like
Ridley Scott.
And Ridley Scott. I mean, I think visually it would have looked stunning. So it probably would have totally succeeded visually. But it probably would have failed in the acting stakes because Schwarzenegger's not an actor, is he?
That's probably why it wasn't made.
I think probably some of it, and Schwarzenegger's star was a little bit on the wane, even in. I mean, if you look at some of the stuff he produced in the 90s, there's a lot of really bad stuff there. There's one about cloning called I think it's called The Sixth Day or something, and then there's The End of Days and Erasure that we were talking about.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of really almost like straight to video. I mean, that 6 Day film, it was on Netflix. I don't know if it still is, and I tried watching it, and it's so dated. And literally, it's not that old a film. It's about 2001, I think.
Right.
And the really ropey effects in it, really bad CGI. And it looks like a film from the 80s, really. And I get, or from the mid-90s. I guess 2001 it was, we weren't that far out of the 90s, but it looks like it's a really bad film, basically. And, it's cheesy and corny and, yeah. But, I mean, I think Schwarzenegger's star was on the wane, and I think probably the studio balked at a huge budget sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
With Schwarzenegger as the lead. But you were just about to say, who would you... Well, that's a really good question. Who would you cast as Neville?
What, from today or...
Well, I think, well, if we're looking at movie adaptations, say it was going to be made in the 90s, when it was first muted to be made, or suggested, I would have gone with someone like Gary Oldman or Clive Owen or someone like that, or... someone with a bit of acting chops. Yeah. Who could do intense and brooding. Christian Bale, I don't know. Christian Bale.
I could see Brad Pitt.
Well, Brad did World War Z, didn't he?
Yeah. So similar thing.
Who knows? Yeah. Maybe he was up for. Yeah. Maybe he.
I never saw that. I don't know.
Yeah, not good either, but. Yeah, it's just someone a bit brooding and intense, I think, and not a typical action hero, because I think, again, like all the adaptations, aside from which one we haven't really spoken about, The Last Man on Earth, which had Vincent Price in it.
Yeah.
Which is probably, when you've not seen that, and I've watched it once.
Right.
But that's probably the closest to Neville from the book. Because he's just like a normal guy almost, you know. He's not a muscly, you know, gun-toting, you know, alpha male.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would have gone with. Well, go on, carry on. What were you going to say? Who would you have casted?
I would say, as he's supposed to be a doctor or a chemist or whatever he is, a biologist. What is he?
I think he is supposed to be like a virologist or a biologist, or you know, someone who deals with medicine, basically.
You know, there are probably not many that look like Will Smith, are there? Virologists. No, they're probably like more like Einstein, aren't they? So
they're crazy heads.
Would be a bit more interesting to have someone looking slightly more normal.
Yeah,
every day.
And I guess that's another thing that takes you a little bit out of the movie, doesn't it? That all the stories that, like you say, he you know, Will Smith doesn't look like a normal guy, does he?
No.
Really? He's an exceptional guy,
Yeah.
and like you say, most scientists, you know, they're a bit dowdy looking,
Yeah, they're
aren't
probably haven't got much common sense.
Well, they probably don't work out as much as he does in this film. He's always like doing his biceps.
Not as good with a gun.
A semi-automatic, no.
Yeah.
No. So yeah, you're looking at whoever. If you were going to make it in the 70s, probably whoever was in MASH at the time. I don't know, or maybe maybe a Christopher Walken or someone. I don't know. Did he look good in a lab coat? He probably did. He was in Brainstorm, wasn't he? I think he had a lab coat in that, and so yeah, someone who's not necessarily an action star.
Yeah.
A Clooney maybe. I don't know. Clooney's a bit good looking, isn't he? Really?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
What about?
Let's do our sort of dream casting of I Am Legend.
Bryan Cranston. Someone like that.
That would be more plausible, and I think that's this is kind of interesting now because we've gone into adaptations, and it's like Minority Report, which I think is a very good Philip K. Dick, because we name checked Philip K. Dick earlier, but in the short story he's like an overweight, a bit like Deckard in Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. They're both kind of like overweight, kind of They're not Tom Cruise and they're not Harrison Ford, and those stories were they cast against type kind of thing, as regarding the story. So yeah, in Minority Report, he's just like a normal sort of slightly dumpy, average guy, like the character from Total Recall, and who they cast in that? Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Not box office though, is it?
It's not box office, exactly. No one's going to want to watch Bryan Cranston in. Although ironically, Bryan Cranston was in the remake of Total Recall.
Oh, was he?
Which is
I haven't.
There's a weird kind of synergy and serendipity there, isn't there? So you would have said you would have cast Bryan Cranston, which makes sense. But I think he is in the remake. I'm pretty sure he's in the remake, but that's Colin Farrell. Yeah. It's a terrible film.
Why did they remake that?
Well, yeah, why did they remake that? Oh my God. Exactly. Terrible. Like they remade RoboCop. That was another thing, like,
I haven't seen
in the
that
noughties
either.
a bit. There was like the, that's the 2010s, isn't it? Yeah. Let's remake RoboCop but not. Let's make it not anything like RoboCop. And like, let's do Total Recall. Let's cast Colin Farrell and make it neither like. Well, I think it probably got some things more right with the short story, but it got a lot wrong. And the thing with Total Recall, the Paul Verhoeven movie, is whatever you think of Schwarzenegger's acting, that film is very iconic and very effective on its own terms. Yeah. And so, like you said, or you intimated, I think trying to remake that is an exercise in futility, really, isn't it? Why would you do it? Oh, what? So the effects are better, but that's about it, really.
It's just recycling.
It is. It's like exactly
a new audience. Yeah, and hoping that they'll.
Oh, my dad spoke. My dad spoke about that film.
Yeah.
he's mentioned that film. Oh, I'll go and see a new version of it. Yeah, that's Hollywood, isn't it? It's just bereft of new ideas, isn't it? It's quite a lot of the time. It's creatively bankrupt. You could argue, but throw that money at a new idea. You got $200 million. Let's make a really good original sci-fi movie. But then the fear is, who's going to watch it?
Yeah.
But you've got to name people. It is that thing of familiarity, isn't it? Oh, I've heard of Total Recall.
Yeah.
I've heard of RoboCop.
Yeah.
It's a franchise. I've heard of it. So it's not like giving it a completely different name. Maybe something, like whatever you think of Christopher Nolan movies, he can open a movie, can't he? Like an original movie.
Yeah.
Like, whatever you think of them, like in Interstellar or Inception. They're kind of, he's made his movies. He's the brand, isn't he? Really, the director's the brand. That's quite rare, I think, these days.
Yeah, it is,
isn't it? It's normally star power that opens a movie.
Director power has gone, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Like in a way, I suppose he apes Kubrick in a way, or he'd like to. Whereas a Kubrick film was a must-see film, wasn't it? Back in the day. So yeah, direct, like you say, Hitchcock.
Yeah,
there's not many, is there?
Yeah, director was king. I don't know if that's still.
No. I think star power is still. I think there are exceptions to the rule, like the Christopher Nolans, but there aren't many like that. Maybe the Ridley
Tarantino.
Or a Tarantino. Yeah. No, definitely. Because he's lucky because he can get good actors and big names in his movies because they want to be in his films. But he didn't always start out like that, did he? I mean, you think of his early stuff; they were a bit risky, weren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, he used a lot of inverted commas has-beens in his films, like Bruce Willis, whose career was Travolta.
Yeah,
both of their careers were pretty much over.
He made a thing of that. Yeah, that became a thing.
It did become a thing. I'm going to revive someone's career.
Yeah.
Even Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
I mean, all those Keitel.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, what had he done since God knows forever?
Yeah.
Keitel. Yeah. I mean, so he saved a lot of careers and sort of revived a lot of careers, didn't he?
What did you think of the?
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
Yes.
I thought it was really good.
Even
personally.
the end.
Spoilers.
Bit over the top.
I think it was a bit over the top. I think in the context of the movie, it was a bit over the top, as in, I think what he did a little bit with Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yes.
It was like, we get the point. You're kind of, it's a bit of a parody and a bit of a pastiche.
Yeah.
And you're kind of revisionism.
Yeah.
It's like, I think he did a better job of it in Once Upon a Time in America than he did Inglourious Bastards. And, it was like, it's like kind of wish fulfillment. Hollywood would have been so much better if Manson hadn't, done all that, and Tate was still alive. She could have gone on to bigger and better things. Sharon Tate, and what if? It's a big what if, isn't it? And I think it kind of laboured it a bit.
Yeah.
But it never it didn't really set out to be a documentary, did it really? I mean,
No.
as that, it would have failed completely because obviously he totally rewrote the Manson story.
Yeah.
But I think it was more of a wish fulfillment about the death of Hollywood, wasn't it, really?
Yeah.
He's obviously a massive movie lover, and he's kind of suggesting in that film that, the film landscape would have been so much different. And it harkened back to a joyous golden era of movies, which I thought which I think that film really successfully
And
did.
DiCaprio, his career sort of get on the slide.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Because obviously he was a Western actor, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So Westerns were kind of a dead thing back then, weren't they? Really?
Yeah.
But I think the end of the film, if I remember, it suggests that his career would have been revived like DiCaprio's, wouldn't it? Because he was a bit of a bum by the end of it,
Yeah.
and doing that thing, killing the Manson family.
Yeah.
revived his career, and he got a lot more roles, and Sharon Tate got a lot more roles, obviously, because she was alive.
Yeah.
And what a joyous thing that would have been, and so I think it was quite a lovely, a bit of a nostalgia fest. I think probably movie lovers would get more out of that movie than your average cinema goer. Someone who's expecting, I don't know what they were expecting really. I mean, I hadn't read any spoilers, so I didn't know how it was going to end. But I think the longer it went, I was thinking he might pull a Inglourious Basterds on this, because obviously, famously in that film, Hitler got assassinated, didn't he?
Yeah.
So it was rewriting history basically. There's your bad CGI. Sorry, we haven't really spoken about this film really, but that's all right. This was probably this was probably state of the art CGI back in 2007.
Yeah. I don't know. Did people think it was good?
I remember thinking the human characters were really bad. I think the animals aren't too bad, but the trouble is when you've got a real dog, because it is unlike Harrison Ford's recent Call of the Wild movie, which I imagine the dogs probably look more like the CG dogs in this. That's a totally CG character in Call of the Wild.
Yeah.
Did you take the kids to see that?
No.
So when you've got real people mixed with CGI of this sort of standard, I think it always kind of grates, doesn't it? It always does jar, because you've got a real dog. Well, that's a CG dog probably, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you've got CG mixed with live action. It doesn't kind of mesh. I mean, even the CG real dog looks a bit naff there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I think they would have been better off. I mean, going back to the Ridley Scott film, which we were talking about, that would have been kind of, I mean, CG was still about, but it was kind of pre abundance of CGI, I think, and they were going for more of a prosthetic look, which I think would have worked better if these was. I remember reading something about this, and they asked why didn't you go for prosthetic makeup, and I think maybe it was like a financial decision, because they thought the test makeup wasn't good enough, so they went with CG in the end. But it doesn't work. It looks like a cartoon, and it does rather take it. Because I don't think any time these vampire stroke zombies of this film, they ever look really realistic.
No.
They always look like special effects.
Yeah, you can tell.
The way they move, they don't move like human beings. They look too, stretchy and
just
rubber.
Goes to show how.
Ironically, they look more rubber than rubber prosthetic makeup effects. What are you going to say? Just goes to show
how technology and the effects have sort of come on in the 13 years since this.
Oh, definitely. But I think also some recent films have looked ropey. I think when you even some of the like Marvel movies, I think when you're totally reliant on special effects to tell a story, that's, if you think of even prosthetic makeup in the past, it was always used sparingly. If you take something like The Thing, it was more about what you didn't see, like or Alien. Yeah. That you glimpsed the alien or the creature, and now you got to see it all. It's all got to be there, and it's harder to hide dodgy effects really nowadays.
Yeah. And people are much more savvy about,
Well, yeah,
effects,
people are more film literate now, aren't they? Really, even if they don't criticise it, they know what they know what their brain's telling them. Their brain's telling them that looks really unbelievable. Yeah, this is dogs. Yeah, animals dying in movies. Spoiler time if you've never watched I Am Legend. I think any animal lover finds this scene a little bit hard to take, but. So yeah, this is where the film of two halves kind of really kicks in, really, because you've had the first sort of half of the movie, it's more kind of contemplative, and Will Smith's character is a bit more tortured and lonely, and then they're about to introduce another character into this film that kind of, I can see why they did it, because narratively it made sense, because the thing that got you watching or got you to this stage was basically watching Will and his relationship with his dog, but he's just throttled it. So that's gone now. So you need a replacement.
It's just him.
It's just him.
And these.
So where's the tension and where's the drama going to come from? So it's like, you know, the board meeting when they're all talking about, you know, story meetings. I think, right, we need another character now. And in the book, there wasn't, as far as I remember. It was you had like the head zombie guy that was always taunting him, but that probably wouldn't have worked for a movie. So they need to introduce another character, and this character they introduced kind of really I don't know, it unbalances the film really. And this is the thing I was going to talk about this earlier. There's a lot of sort of religious symbolism in this film, like almost like, you know, what the Omega Man had a little bit of. He's like a Christ-like figure, but they begin to sort of really ramp up that sort of idea in this, because they introduce a character and she's kind of a bit of a, well, I guess she's kind of an analogue of the hippie character that was in the Charlton Heston movie. Right. She's a bit of a free spirit, a bit of a hippie, but not 70s style hippie, more metropolitan. She's like metrosexual. Is she metrosexual? I don't even know what that means now, but she's a bit more like a character from Friends, maybe.
Okay.
Would that have been a thing? Phoebe?
Yeah.
I don't know. But so yeah, he can't even lust after his canine companion now, and you know, even the dummy that he goes to see, that he's
she's not interested.
She's not interested now, you know. So I think he does ask her out. We didn't really talk about this, but yeah, he's arranged shop dummies in a video rental store. That dates this film as well, doesn't it? Video rental store. Yeah. Good luck finding one of them in today. Then probably in 2012. There probably were a few, weren't there? But you don't find, you know, there's no Blockbusters anymore.
No.
But yeah, he kind of positions all these shop dummies, and he talks to them like they're, you know, like they're real people. And he's just totally realised that he's totally alone now, which is quite effective. But they sort of dispense all that quite soon.
You would go mad, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Totally fucking nuts.
Well, I think this film is at its best when, you know, it is exploring that. But it just doesn't quite do it enough. It doesn't really get to the, you know, because it wants to make it a crowd-pleasing action movie as well. So you got to get your bangs for your buck as well, haven't you? But there's a bit of a religious sort of. I always have a bit of a problem with that. Maybe that's my own prejudice, but I think when there's anything ever overtly. I think maybe they didn't want to make this film a real downer, because effectively the book's a fucking downer, isn't it? The book's a downer, and they don't want it to be totally pessimistic and depressing.
You know, if you were that character, what is the?
Well, you'd kill yourself, wouldn't you?
You carry on.
And I think I can't remember in this if he does. Maybe this is. I think he contemplates it, killing himself, because he thinks, you know, that's it. I've got nothing now. And that's when they introduce this other character, but I think what this film probably they needed a buzzword. They needed a buzzword. Oh, this is it. He's thinking of death by zombie.
Right.
So he's thinking, I'll just, you know, let them get me. They can have me now. I think they wanted to give it a buzzword, so they said. We're going to give him faith. We're going to get him to have his faith, as in religious faith.
Yeah.
What will keep him going?
Yeah.
And you know, we know a lot of American audiences, they love a bit of religion, don't they? They love a bit of God.
Yeah.
So I think with this, we're gonna get Will to get his faith back.
Yeah.
So that's what they kind of introduce, and they kind of introduce this character. But there's a scene in this film which, to me, this might sound really, and I remember this from, like, I can't remember a lot about this film, but I do remember this scene particularly, and it really annoys me because I don't believe anyone, whoever you are, I mean, are we boomers?
Uh,
That's old people, isn't it?
I don't know if we're boomer.
We're not millennials, are we?
No,
we're boomers then. Generation X. We're Gen X, yeah. But but this film is 2007, right? So he meets his character, and he takes her back to his fortress because she's a she, and he puts a CD because Bob Marley's figured in this quite a bit.
Yeah.
If you remember,
Yeah.
we've got the sound down now.
Don't worry.
Don't worry about a thing. Everything's going to be all right. That's kind of, you could say that's kind of a running theme as well. And he puts a CD on and he plays that song and he's going, "Don't worry." He doesn't do any rapping, thankfully. That's a relief. But he says, "Do you remember this song? You heard this song?" And she goes, "No." Right? Okay. Don't listen to a lot of radio. And he's like, "Don't worry about a thing, Bob Marley." And she goes, "Who's Bob Marley?" "No, I'm sorry. If you've lived in a cave for like 40 years,
You would have heard of Bob Marley.
You would have heard of Bob Marley. Even if you've never heard any of Bob Marley's music, there's a little bit of a cross there. Do you see that? That's, So now we're getting to the sort of this film now starts to wind me up after this, basically. But yes, I mean, to me, that might sound like a really small thing to a lot of people, but to me, that really annoys me because whoever you are, even if you're, wherever you are in the world, you've heard of Bob Marley, surely.
Yeah.
Even more so in 2007 than maybe now, or 2012 when this film is set. And she has no clue who Bob Marley is. And I think, what? That's bad writing.
Yeah.
Why have that?
Yeah.
Why have that as I never understood why they put that bit of dialogue in, because it didn't seem to make any sense at all why you had that sort of interaction between them. We get a bit more backstory now of Will, why he's alone. So he's sending his family off to be protected, and so they're somewhere safe while he can work on a cure for the virus that's sending everyone into zombies. And they're blowing up the bridge so people can't obviously transfer the virus. No, what bridge is that? Manhattan? What bridge is that?
I guess so. I don't know.
Was it New York?
Yeah, because it's Manhattan Island, isn't it?
Oh, okay, of course it is.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. That's...
Oh, whoops.
Uh-oh. So, yeah, his family have been killed, basically. She's heard of Shrek. So she knows what Shrek is, but she doesn't know who Bob Marley is. Yeah. And this is, I think, where we need to soften this. This film's a little bit of a downer, so we need to, need a bit more hope in the movie. And I can understand, like you said, commercially, that's probably...
Yeah.
That was like a good move, wasn't it, really? Because no one's going to watch a $200 million downer movie, downfest, are they?
No.
Misery fest. Even if it's, Will Smith or no Will Smith. So yeah, I think this now it sort of becomes more like the Chuck Heston movie a little bit. He's kind of action hero now, and he's still looking for a cure for the an antidote. I think that's a flashback. So yeah, I think she's from a very sort of religious background. There's a lot to do with crucifixes now. And
you said the director.
I think it's the writer. I think his name's Akiva Goldsmith.
Okay.
And I think one criticism of his work, or a criticism of his work, is he always tries to get some sort of religious element into it. So yeah. That kind of annoys me a little bit, and there's also a butterfly motif that keeps repeating, because we kind of heard it earlier in the movie, right at the beginning, actually, when his daughter's still alive and they're trying to escape Manhattan or whatever, she goes, "Butterfly." She does that with her hand,
yes,
remember?
yeah.
So there's all that sort of
Right.
I'm not quite sure why they do it. Are they trying to? Is it a reincarnation thing? I'm not quite sure. It's like really heavy-handed symbolism.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. It's just they're trying to create meaning by having all these parallels, but it's just very contrived.
Yeah.
So he's met some other survivors. I can't really recall if they're survivors because they're immune or not now. I can't quite remember. But he sort of takes it on board to protect them. And oh, there you go. They heard his message. Oh yeah, because he's been broadcasting because he thought he was alone. Maybe he's even a bit annoyed now because imagine if you were the last one on Earth, and then the only people who are still alive you don't really like.
Yeah.
That'd be even worse, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would, wouldn't it?
Imagine if, I mean, for years you've been wanting other human company, and then you end up, meeting some really unlikable people, and you've got to think, oh my God, have I got to spend the rest of my life with these people now? Maybe that would make a more interesting spin.
It would, yeah.
Yeah, what if the people who were still surviving were actually really irritating, and you'd rather they were dead?
And then you killed them, and then...
yeah, maybe that would be a real downer, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Ultimately, that's the end scene. You actually kill them because they're so irritating. Yeah. And you realise that actually being on your own is preferable. I've learnt my lesson.
We've all felt that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, now we're all in isolation.
Yeah.
Perhaps we are all a bit like Will Smith.
Yeah.
Are we all a bit like that? But he's probably got more bog roll than us. He's probably got a massive stash.
Like Boris.
Like Boris,
Got a
yeah.
pallet full.
That's it. He's having it shipped in, especially. Do you think it's down in his hut, in his bunker?
I don't know.
He's got his bunker, hasn't he? If it all goes tits
Yeah,
up.
he's not...
It's probably full of bog roll, isn't it? And rice and pasta.
Yeah. It's him.
It is, yeah. He's been panic buying. He's got loads of bulk bog roll. So yeah, this film now becomes a bit of a domestic drama, and that's I think when it becomes a lot less interesting. And there's and none of this was in the book.
No.
So it's like now we've got to give Will Smith a potential love interest now. Like, why wouldn't she like sort of 40 stone or something? She
Yeah,
could have
it's
been a
quite
dumpy.
convenient, isn't it?
It's convenient that she's sort of young, and sort of attractive.
And he's like a,
So yes, again, it becomes rather conventional and contrived and sort of corny now, really. And while they're watching Shrek, I've no idea. Oh yeah, and he's recounting the storyline, which is quite annoying.
Oh, right.
I guess it's a film he watched with his daughter when she was alive, I suppose. That's what they're getting at. But it's like really heavy-handed.
Yeah.
It's been quite subtle up to now, and now it's like really sledgehammer.
It's almost like he's got a chance to have a family again.
Yes, well, yeah, exactly. They're the substitutes
Yeah.
family, yeah. But yeah, it's all rather contrived and, a bit lazy writing, isn't it, really?
Yeah. Yeah, you can see the tone of the film.
It does shift, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I wonder if, like, maybe someone, there was rewrites or, it'd be interesting to see how many drafts of this script there was. Because I imagine, because I think the Ridley Scott version was probably Warner's had this, didn't they? Because they produced the Charlton Heston version.
Right.
So I'm pretty sure this is a Warner's movie. So they still kept it in their vaults or whatever. So they probably dusted off an old, the original Ridley Scott script that he was working on.
Yeah.
And thought, we'll just modernise it a little bit and update it. So yeah, you wonder if the first half of the film was how perhaps the Ridley Scott movie was going to look, and they ditched the second half and rewrote it and made it a bit more, digestible for a mainstream audience.
Yeah.
So Will needs a love interest.
It's all a bit convenient, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, I think that one thing I do appreciate is they don't cop out and make her his love interest. Whereas there's a deleted scene in this movie, and a lot of people it's got an alternate ending basically.
Right.
And there is an alternate ending. It might have been. I always think maybe it'd been more interesting if actually he cured the because he's got a zombie stroke vampire girl down in the basement. It might have been more interesting if he'd cured her and they got off and became an item.
Yeah.
But in the alternate in the alternate version anyway, if I'm right in saying this, he survives.
Oh, okay.
I need to watch it again. But I do remember a lot of people were saying, "Oh, we preferred the ending. If they'd used the alternate ending of this movie, it would have been a lot better." But actually, it would make the film even worse. I mean, it's not an amazing film as it is, but the alternate ending is far more cheesy and corny. I'm pretty sure they do both survive, and they end up at like a sort of a bit like a hippie camp.
Yeah.
To start again. So that's the other thing. They're like Adam and Eve. It's that kind of that religious connotation again. They're like rebooting humanity. So Adam, Eve, blah blah blah. So yeah, the alternate ending version I think is even cornier. But a lot of people said that they preferred it if the film ended like that. And at least in this he dies.
Yeah.
And she gets the antidote and takes it onto the camp that there's a few, the few survivors that remain, or the uninfected that remain. So
humanity still has a chance.
Yeah, and I guess in relation to the movie, he's the legend.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. Like, that's one thing this film does get right, is at least it uses the title of the book. None of the other adaptations have ever used the title of the book. So I suppose it was kind of sold as a more faithful adaptation because they bothered to use the title of the book, but it isn't really. In fact, if I remember the book, unlike yourself, my recollection is very hazy, but I think it ends in that he basically accepts that he's legend because he is alone, and he is almost like the Antichrist, as in he's legend because he's the only remaining human being, and he's considered legend by the vampires. The new order.
Yeah,
they consider him legend because he's unique, but that's not in a good way. He's just he's like any legendary figure like King Arthur or whatever. He's obsolete basically, but he's gained legendary status by being the only one of his kind left, if you like. Whereas in this, he's kind of legend because he's found an antidote and he's going to save people. So they will speak his name like they would Einstein or Mary Curie or whoever, Louis Pasteur. He's legendary in that. There we go. This is the scene. So Will's saying, listen to this. It's a classic. It's a classic. It's Bob Marley, and she's going, just watch her expression. Obviously, you in Spodcast land can't see her expression, but like she's going, no, I don't. Doesn't ring a bell. I mean, come on. Even if you listen to a radio, you've got it tuned into a station, you're driving your car or whatever, you're gonna hear a Bob Marley. I think even I heard Bob Marley, Don't Worry About a Thing recently. It's obviously, they're trying to pump that message at the moment because everyone's fucking panicking and shitting a brick. So you would have, I bet they, in relation to this movie, they would have played Bob Marley, Don't Worry About a Thing a lot when everything's going down, wouldn't they? The radio stations were still operating. Yeah. don't worry, folks. You know, don't panic. It'll be over soon. Here's Bob Marley with Don't Worry About a Thing. And she's like going, no, don't recall that. Bob who? Maybe it's a bit like when you get you've got your first date and you're trying to you're sharing with her your music collection and you're a bit worried whether they're going to like it or not.
That's when you know it's going wrong when they...
Yeah, that's there was an embarrassment, and they kind of like perhaps they just nod sort of.
Go, oh yeah.
Or they sort of look off into the distance a little bit,
and they're like, that's really
it's different. That's
really
different.
Good. Yeah,
it's really different. That.
Yeah.
And those awkward initial, what sort of things you like, what are your favourite movies, what's your favourite music, and then you find out,
yeah.
So he's just discovered that she doesn't even know who Bob Marley is. I mean, that could be an immediate, although she is probably the last woman on earth that was certainly the last woman he's seen in a very long time, isn't it?
He'll have to get over that.
Yeah, he just sort of let her off.
In normal life, you would
you would question it, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
you'd go back and you'd have to sort of think about that, debate that with yourself. Like, well, look, she's never even heard of Bob Marley.
Yeah.
Is this a woman I could spend the rest of my life with?
Yeah.
It's going to be difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really.
But in this scenario,
beggars can't be choosers.
This is the only woman I can spend my life with.
She could like S Club 7, it wouldn't matter really, wouldn't it? Or, One Direction or something.
Yeah.
You just have to go with it. What's a 2012 equivalent? I can't even think of what was in the charts 2012.
Don't.
Was it big Shakira?
Don't know.
Shakira.
Oh.
Her breasts are like mountains, aren't they?
Yeah. She's got the... They are, actually.
Are they? Not like mountains?
Not
like volcanoes.
Probably hillocks.
Futtocks. That's a word I like.
Oh.
Is that? I think that's a small
word.
Futtocks is. Sure, it's a word. I think it's a small hillock.
Oh.
I don't know, or maybe it's a big hillock. You got futtocks and you got. I hope you have. I'm sure I saw that in. I'm sure that's like the Two Ronnies or something, or futtocks.
I'm gonna look that up later.
Look it up. Look up futtock, because it sounds obviously it's almost like another word, doesn't it? Which is part of the joy of it. But actually, I believe it's a mound. And that word in itself has connotations, doesn't it? But I think it's a grassy mound.
Oh, grassy knoll.
A grassy knoll. Yeah, Lee Harvey Oswald. He's just over there on that futtock. But yeah. Everyone, go Google futtock right now.
Is there any futtocks in this film?
There's no futtocks whatsoever.
No.
I think that's another problem with this film, is it was very much
Futtockless.
It would have benefited from more futtocks. It's your typical PG-13 like action stroke horror movie, as in it's pretty bloodless.
Yeah.
And pretty there's no gore. So yeah, it's very sanitized. It's very polite horror. So now we need an explosion now. So yeah, this is it. Like, okay, we've had no explosions in this movie, and
now
it's a Will Smith movie, so you got to get some explosions in it, haven't you? Well, now I think he thinks he needs to save those. He's got something to live for now, hasn't he? He's got religious woman to save. So it's fair dinkum. Oh yeah, she's got a butterfly tattoo. That's it.
Oh, okay.
That's the real. I remember that now. That's the really, contrived shoehorn symbolism. His daughter went butterfly, and she's got a butterfly, and he's like,
he sees it, and he's like, you must be the one.
You must be the one. Yeah,
Well, you are the one.
You are the one. You're the only one. So, yeah.
Yeah, heavy-handed.
It's very heavy-handed. I mean, whether they thought whether the writer thought he was being clever, I don't know, but. And there's also in the beginning of the film, it's very unobvious, but there's a butterfly. It's the same butterfly that she's got tattooed on her arm that flies by him and the dog when they're like creeping through the desolate wasteland. It sort of flies by. So it's on paper they probably thought, it's a very clever idea, but it just looks very heavy-handed.
Ooh.
So now they've had to up the old action ante now.
I have.
So he's the head zombie, whatever you want to call him. But there's in the books I think like we were saying earlier, they are intellectual, and in this, they're just mute kind of shouty zombie type things. They're a bit faster than your normal zombie. Although that was a thing, wasn't it? Like sort of they did change that, didn't they, in the zombie genre? Zombies are always sort of renowned for being slow moving, but they did do some that were, I think it's 28 Days Later, although they're technically not zombies, are they? They've got the rage.
Rage, yeah.
Yeah. So that's why they were like full on running types. Although they're not technically zombies, but they've always spoken about doing another one of those, isn't they? I think there is a script that exists, or I think Alex Garland was always talking about doing another one.
Do you think, like, with the current situation, like, that's going to be...
Well, yes. We're going to get a load of virus movies again, aren't we?
It's the biggest fucking thing that's happened.
For, well, they say like for 100 years. So, yeah, I definitely think if you were tired of the fucking zombie virus movie before, you're going to be really tired of it in about 5 years' time, because once Hollywood's got back on track and they're doing stuff again, you're going to get loads of them, aren't you? I don't really know what more they can do with it, but I suppose they'll try and think of something, won't they?
There'll be a lot of human stories of...
Oh, people suffering and the hunt for spaghetti sauce.
Yeah.
And
the cure, the
pasta, braving the supermarkets. Louis Pasta, Pasta La Vista, baby. I suppose there'd be quite a few comedies. Probably you could do a comedy out of it, couldn't you? But the thing is that the zombie, like you look at the classics like Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead, they've practically parodied what's happening now already. Yeah, like 30, 40 years ago. You watch Dawn of the Dead, and it's like it literally is going to a supermarket right now. Crazy, insane consumerism. Yeah, consumerism gone wild.
Never seen what we're seeing.
Empty shelves.
Yeah,
people walking around aimlessly, like look, like
what can I buy?
There's nothing to buy. I'll buy a light bulb. I've got those left in stock.
I had to buy Weight Watchers baked beans.
Shit, you got
only the small tins.
You got baked beans.
Only small ones.
Really? You know how bad it's got. Like even the vegetarian sausages and beans sold out. And I'm not saying you know how bad it is because I'm a vegetarian, but I mean, that's the only ones I ever buy.
Where do you get them then?
Sainsbury's. They do their own brand.
Oh, okay.
They do their own tins of beans and veggie sausages.
Oh, right.
But even people who would never even touch, fuck it, that's all they've got.
Yeah.
Even they were all gone, and they are always in abundance. They're.
What about corn and all that? Did you?
Well, our Sainsbury's has always been a bit of late has been a bit poor anyway with that stuff. But in fact, ironically or weirdly, they had a bit more than normal, which was strange. I couldn't quite get my head around that. But there was some woman who was like getting some corn nuggets and sausages, and she sort of looked at me and went, "Oh, it's terrible if you're a vegetarian, isn't it?" I mean, I was kind of thinking, well, actually. It's probably it seems to be better at the moment because there's more veggie stuff. Oh, like I said, they did take the beans and sausages, but like there was more veggie nuggets there than there normally is. I don't know what the reason of that is, but
no.
Perhaps the vegetarians will inherit the earth. I don't know. Perhaps they're trying to keep the vegetarians going, and because in the apocalypse they'll be the last to go, won't they?
Yeah.
I don't know. But so yeah, I think this is where, in regards to the movie, this is where the alternate ending kicks in, which I will show you, but I won't.
Oh, there's
there's
the
a tattoo.
butterfly.
Yeah. See, look, it's all a bit. And he goes, and like you would, you'd make that connection, wouldn't you? Even though you're about to be killed, she's got a butterfly tattoo. My daughter had a butterfly. She did a butterfly thing, and I saw a butterfly once, and therefore she needs to live.
I must save them.
I must save them. Yeah. Yeah, it's very cornball. Now, I'm not sure. I could be reading far too much into this, but she's Anna and he's Ethan, the kid.
Right.
A&E
Adam.
and Eve. I don't know if that's just me making connections that aren't there, but knowing how many other corny connections are in this film, I wouldn't be surprised.
I think he just say, I think that's why you're here or something.
Oh, yes.
Almost like it's predestined.
Yes, yeah, predestination, that's it, yeah. It's fate. It's him up there, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Playing his games.
Playing his game while the children die of cancer.
Self-sacrifice.
Yep.
He died
He died for our sins.
or his own. He feels like he's...
I was reading this thing about some guy who, I don't know, again, this is on the internet, so it's probably bullshit, but he caught coronavirus because he was having an affair with another woman. So
Who did?
This guy
Oh, right.
in Italy or something.
Oh, okay.
He was like having an affair and he caught it from his lover. So it's almost like the karma virus. I don't know.
Have you heard what they've been calling it in America?
No.
Kung flu.
Oh no!
And
is that Trump?
Yeah,
is it?
yeah.
Kung flu.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he's calling it the Chinese virus, isn't
Yeah.
he? All the.
It's not gone down very well in China.
No, I don't imagine they weren't that pleased
Yeah.
about that. Yeah, in his press conferences, it's about it's from China.
Yeah, Kung flu.
Kung flu.
We're going to beat this.
We're going to call it that.
Yeah.
We're going to rebrand it.
It's funny.
It's
Let's make a joke out of it. Let's, be racist.
Didn't he say something about like people are dying like they've never died before or something?
Yeah.
Some like how can they die again? What's he on about? There are people dying
he
who
turns
haven't
it
died
into
before.
like,
People are dying who haven't died before.
It's unprecedented. It's like it's never been. No one's ever
Died before.
No, but he's like, I'm the president, and nothing like this has ever happened.
Oh,
before,
ever, right? Yeah.
No one's ever.
It's like reset, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nothing's ever happened before he became president. Yeah,
and
like
this is like amazing. It's like,
it's good for the country. It's good for the world.
yeah, we're gonna,
Even though many sort of viruses have decimated the world before,
Yeah.
but it's like
This is
rewriting.
the-
It's like rewriting history, isn't
this
it?
is the one.
It's like this is
that
the this
everyone
is,
will remember.
This is the best virus we've ever had.
And
It's an amazing virus. It's the
I'll
best
be remembered as the best
president
ever.
Yeah.
Forget the wall.
Yeah. We got bigger
got the
fish to
virus
fry.
now.
That's it. That's right. Perhaps he's hoping that's going to kill a lot of Mexicans instead.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Light up the darkness. There you go. That's the message.
Yeah.
What do you take from that? Akiva Goldsmith, blame him for all the cheesy religious symbolism.
Yeah, I don't.
So there you go. Look, so it was already a screenplay before, so I'm imagining that was probably perhaps the Ridley Scott screenplay that they were originally going to,
Oh, you produced
Oh,
it.
there you go. So, he had even more leverage, didn't he? Or leverage. Got to stop saying leverage. That's a very American way of saying leverage. But so I guess he could get his ideas in a bit more, couldn't he, if he's dumping up some cash.
Yeah.
But he's a big name, Akiva Goldsmith. He does quite a lot of comic book movies have his name attached to it. I'm not sure about the Marvel ones. I think it's more the DC stuff.
Are they all religious?
Well, I'm not saying they all are, but Well, Superman wasn't it? Because he's like a Christ-like figure. So, yeah, maybe it is. Maybe he's trying to force his theology on people by making corny movies. That's his ploy. Gonna make some really corny movies that, you know, thrust religious iconography down their throats. It's not hard to say that. But yeah, so I mean, we were kind of semi-watching that. I mean, what do you take from that?
Oh, Willow Smith. Was that?
Oh, that must have been the.
his daughter,
Oh, that was a little
girl.
kid then. Yeah, so he got his
yeah.
daughter in it as well.
Bit of
Nepotism.
yeah. What did I think of it?
What do you take from that?
Not much,
No,
really.
it is very uneven, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
like the first half is kind of a contemplative
Could
drama.
have gone somewhere else.
Maybe they looked at it and thought, you know, because everything's test screened, isn't it, and rushes and stuff nowadays.
Yeah.
They might have thought, hey, you really need to up the action quotient a little bit. It's you know, it's too depressing. Can we get a bit more positive? Hey, can we get some more positivity in this? What if we have Will mimicking Shrek? That's what an audience wants. They don't want all this sort of downbeat, you know,
It wasn't that depressing, though.
pessimism.
It could have been much more.
Well, that's the thing. I think it'd probably been better if it was.
Yeah.
I mean, like the book.
Well, it would be, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the book the book works and it's hard hitting and memorable because it is so bleak. You know, this is kind of bleak to a degree, isn't it? But then it kind of wants to pull back on the
Mike
bleakness.
Patton.
Oh yes, he did that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that. Mike Patton from Faith No More.
Oh, what he did the?
He did the creature
Oh,
effects. Well, creature vocals,
Yeah.
voices.
Oh.
Yeah, he's done quite a lot of that actually. I think with video games as well, he's got a good little lucrative career doing.
does soundtracks as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, soundtracks, voiceover work.
Yeah.
Yeah, blimey. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, not really. Again, it's like it's not memorable.
No, I've forgotten it already.
To be honest with you, yeah. That's part of the problem. In fact, for all its flaws and simplicity, and you know, dated effects, probably the Charlton Heston one's more memorable. Really, I certainly remember that a lot more fondly than I remember this.
Yeah.
Certainly. So I think we're still waiting, like we are with many. Like you say, you can question: is it why even adapt a book to screen? What's the point of it? But I think we are still awaiting the definitive adaptation of
With Bryan Cranston.
Bryan Cranston.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Who would you have who would you get to direct it? I've chosen the actor. You can choose.
Oh yeah, we were going to have our dream cast,
You
weren't
see
we?
if
And-
Ridley Scott still wanted to do it, or
well, I suppose he's still directing, isn't he?
you'd ask him.
I'd ask him.
Yeah.
Here, Ridders.
We got Brian on board.
Brian's going to do it.
Yeah.
What do you reckon, mate? Do you want to do that film you were going to do 20 years ago?
Better than Schwarzenegger.
He's probably moved on, isn't he, by now? I mean, modern directors.
Who would you
Probably.
get?
Oh, do you know what? I know I keep singing his praises, but I would get an Alex Garland to do it.
Yeah.
Because he's done his post-apocalypse. He's done 28 Days Later, hasn't he? He's done Annihilation.
Yeah.
He's quite good at the sort of the visual. He's got a good visual eye.
All right. Well.
Yeah, I would say yeah. I'd say get him on board. I'm trying to think who else really of the new guard.
No.
I don't know really. No, I can't think of anyone better. Can you think of anyone else?
No. That's
Is that,
good.
is that a good one? Bryan Cranston,
And
Alex Garland. He can adapt the book as well.
yeah.
There aren't many other.
Keep the dog.
You keep the dog, but
Yeah.
what could you? Oh, they've done a German Shepherd. I think in Last Man on Earth, I think Vincent Price had like a terrier. So, what would you want to go for? Golden Retriever, Labrador, Shih Tzu, Cockapoo. What's popular?
Well,
Bulldog. Dachshund.
Yeah, I was thinking Dachshund. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
You could call it Schwarzenegger, couldn't you? That could be like a let's think of shoehorned in really bad
or
sort
Bob,
of like
Bob Marley or Mark.
Oh, Bob. Well, I was thinking like or Chuck.
Yeah.
As in Charlton Heston, couldn't you? You could like name check all the previous.
You could get a Great Dane, couldn't you?
Oh yeah, Great Dane. Well, he's Austrian though, isn't he, Schwarzenegger? You think that's what dogs do Austria have? Do they have a breed? There must be an Austrian breed. Schnauzer?
Yeah.
Is that Austrian?
Sounds it.
Yeah, it does sound it. Can't get a Schnauzer and call it Arnie.
What do they look like?
I don't know. I want to say Schnauzer's like schnout, isn't it?
Yeah.
I want to say they got a big Schnauzer.
A big schnauzer.
I mean, it's got a big Schnauzer. I don't know what a Schnauzer looks like.
Shaggy, long hair.
I want to look up futtock and Schnauzer now. I want to have a Schnauzer standing on a futtock to make it very meta. But yeah, okay, dream casting. So we've got Cranston, Garland. We've got a Schnauzer in it called Arnie.
Yeah.
Did the head vampire have a name? I can't remember in the book. He probably did, didn't
Should we
he?
give him one?
Well, okay, vampires. So think what's the Dracula story? What was he called in that? Bram Stoker. Called him Stoker.
Stoker.
There you go.
Yeah,
that sounds kind of a bit.
Yeah. Who'd play?
Who played Stoker? Come on. Who would you get?
Oh, Gary Oldman then.
Yeah, Gary's about the right age, isn't he? Yeah. So Cranston and Oldman.
Yeah.
That's about it, really. In the well, you got the female succubies.
Yeah, would you?
Succubuses. What's a plural of is it succubuses or succubus? What's a collection of succubi? I don't know.
Succubus. S's?
A what? An S's of succubus. I don't know. I can't remember. I think was there a couple in the book? We'll cast one.
Half a
You got half a dozen?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. You're greedy, aren't
Can
you?
you have like a succubus and orgy or something?
You could have an orgy if you wanted. Well, you could have like a
Might get messy.
Perhaps a lesbian thing, because that would probably that would get him going, wouldn't it? Old Neville, if he's probably like just been watching Pornhub, like he's held up in his sort of in his castle, isn't he?
Yeah.
All his what's he got to do with his time? Just watch Pornhub for like hours on end. Ron Jeremy.
Yeah.
Maybe you could have him
through all the categories.
He's going through all the categories. He's got bukkake.
Yeah.
He's got Schnauzer, bestiality, Schnauzer sex. So yeah, Ron. Perhaps you could cast Ron Jeremy in a cameo.
Yeah.
He could be like a vampire, couldn't he? Come to suck his blood and other parts of his anatomy. It's all taken a nasty turn. There's got to be. Apparently, there is. I was reading. There is through all this coronavirus. There's now coronavirus porn, isn't there?
Is there?
Yeah. Apparently.
How does that work?
They've got all the hazmat suits on.
Oh God.
Yeah. So nothing escapes a porn
People are
parody.
dying. People are dying.
People are dying, but but people still need to watch porn. Well, they saying like I read this thing. I don't know how true it is that they were going to give free Pornhub subscriptions to Italians.
Yeah.
Italian.
Why only Italians?
Well, that's not very fair, is it?
No.
Well, the rest of us
Is it because they're so
sexually.
Yeah, Latin lovers.
Yeah, and probably just randy.
Or-
They're so bloody
yeah.
randy.
Yeah.
It's like what we got to do. We give them porn to like calm them down a bit.
Is that going to calm them down though?
Might make them more prone to rioting. But yeah, apparently that's a thing.
Okay.
Anyway, so what do we take from 2007's I Am Legend? That
It was not as good as Charlton Heston's.
it was a misfire, wasn't it? Really.
Yeah.
So I hope no one's holding out for that long overdue prequel with Will Smith.
No.
'Cause I don't think it's gonna.
No.
Although they can de-age it. They've got de-aging technology now, haven't they? So I didn't see that film he was in recently that Ang Lee directed. What's it called? Not the Omega. Again, that was something like Omega Man. It wasn't Omega Man. What was it called? Where he's fighting a younger version of himself. You must have seen the trailer.
No, I don't think I have.
Oh, Gemini Man.
Oh, right.
Gemini Man, it's called. It's nearly Omega Man, isn't it? It's called Gemini Man, and apparently that was a script that would been sort of, what do they call it when it's, a long dormant script that's just on the pile that they haven't ever made. Isn't there a word for it? Can't remember now. But anyway, so it's a really old script, and I think it goes back to even back in the day, someone like Stallone was going to be in it.
Oh, right.
It's that old, and they decided to finally dust it off. Now the technology's caught up, and basically, you've got an old, or a current Will Smith fighting a de-aged by 30 years version of himself, like a 20-year-old versus a 50-year-old.
You haven't seen it?
No, it looked naff, but and it used, what did it use? It was 100 and, it was something like, 96 frames per minute or something? It's not some new filming technique that they filmed it in 96. Well, 96, 48. I'm sure Peter Jackson filmed the Hobbit movies in 48 frames per second FPS, and only certain cinemas could show it.
Oh, right.
And I'm pretty sure Ang Lee went, no, I'm going to go one better. I'm going to do it in, maybe it was
showing off.
It's just showing off. Maybe it wasn't 48. Maybe it was 62 frames per second. But anyway, it apparently makes it look like it makes it look like a video.
Sorry, I've got to go to the toilet.
Oh, he's got to go to the toilet. So I think
but you can carry on.
No, it's probably a good time to end it, really, because
sure.
I'm just going to go off on a tangent talking about
Okay.
unrelated movies. So let's round this one up. What are we going to go for next time? Did we say maybe? We thought we might go through a spate of post-apocalyptic movies, didn't we?
Keep it sort of real.
Keep it real.
Yeah, and
We did talk about maybe the Omega Man, but maybe we'll leave that a little bit later because we've just kind of watched an adaptation of I Am Legend. So maybe we'll do perhaps we'll do a Dawn of the Dead or something, or a zombie movie, or whatever. Anyone listens to this, if they can be bothered to write in, give us a suggestion. We're open to suggestions, aren't we? All the time. Any suggestion, not necessarily even with movies, anything.
Very open.
What to do with our lives, basically. That would be a major suggestion, really. Anyway, on that note, I've got getting a very dry mouth now. I need to lubricate my mouth. It's getting very dry. I can hardly speak. So, Millie,
Yep.
I'm going to sign off. Good luck, everyone. I hope you make it through to the other side. See you soon.
social distancing. Just remember that.